Wednesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and welcome back to The Advantage, where we take you through the latest in political ads and spending. If you are new here, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Ben. How's everybody doing this week? So, we've saved our green beers for after the show.
We are wearing green little bits here and there. My mask is green when I have it on, so we're covered.
Dedication. Anyways, so today we are going to be talking about the special elections that are going to be taking place in 2021. There's not a huge slate like we've seen in the past. There doesn't seem like there's a Georgia 6 that's just going to kind of take over the entire political landscape, but there are a few races to cover. Some in Louisiana, one in Texas, one in New Mexico, and it looks like one in Ohio as well. So Rachel, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So a number of these races are due to the fact that Biden has been appointing people and pulling them out of their congressional seats. We'll start in Louisiana. Louisiana 2 is one of those cases. Cedric Richmond was the previous occupant of that seat. It is a heavily Democratic seat, and there are, I believe, 4 main candidates who are advertising right now, but there are 2 who are really the front runners, Troy Carter and Karen Carter Peterson.
Yeah, and this is actually the race that's seen the most spending by a pretty fair amount. Both of them have spent a couple $100,000 on this race. Carter has a small advantage, but Karen Peterson is being backed by an outside group. So overall, there's a pretty good spending landscape there. The messaging is kind of interesting there. You know, Peterson is really talking about women. You know, she's been endorsed by Stacey Abrams, some kind of prominent women. She's really playing that up, her response to Katrina. Whereas Carter has been endorsed by Cedric Richmond and is really kind of playing that up in his messaging. And they are both state reps from the area, from what I understand.
And I almost wonder if it's in response to the fact that Karen Carter Peterson has been getting so much attention from prominent women in politics that Troy Carter, in a couple of his ads, talks about what he's done for women. There's a whole ad about an initiative he started to help young girls in high school have access to prom dresses. So he's definitely playing on some of that too, I think, and trying to counteract some of the messaging. Obviously none of it's negative, but some of the messaging that Karen Peterson is pushing as far as her experience and dedication to women's issues goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is another seat that it looks like is going to be a very comfortable Democratic seat. It's a very blue seat. So on the other side of Louisiana, we have Louisiana 5. Very tragic story here. Luke Letlow, who was elected in 2020, died of COVID in December. So his wife is actually running to fill that seat, and she's the only one up on air right now. It looks like she's running pretty much unopposed at this time.
Yeah, she has 2 ads on air. It's a 30-second and a 60-second variations of the same ad, and she talks a little bit about losing her husband and how hard that has been, obviously, but really, you know, focuses in on the dedication to public service that they both shared and the fact that she wants to carry on his legacy and do good work for her community. So they're really good ads, you know, and obviously genuine. It's a really tough situation, but I think it's kind of cool that she's running to fill that seat, and have a feeling that it will be an easy win for her.
Absolutely, and this actually, in a remarkable and sad state of kind of the world right now, that's not the only case where a wife is running to succeed her husband who died of COVID. In Texas 6, that's also the case as well.
And there's, tell us a little bit about the landscape in Texas 6.
Yeah, so Texas 6 is definitely the most likely of these seats to flip as things look right now. So that seat was won by Ronald Wright, in 2020. He won by about 8 points in 2020. Not a super highly contested seat, but it is one that has been kind of going to the left for a couple of years. It was won by 17 points by Romney in 2012, and was won only by 3 by Trump in 2020. So this does look like a seat where people are not going to move aside. It looks like the Democrats are going to contest this seat pretty heavily.
And that'll be interesting to watch. You know, you mentioned Georgia 6 earlier. I'm not sure we'll be seeing those levels of spending, but anytime there's a seat that looks like it's in play like that, we tend to see a ton of spending.
Yeah, and so there's a pretty crowded primary field, though it does look like the field might be tried to clear it a little bit on the Republican side for Wright's wife, who is a fairly well-known activist and such. So it seems like she has some pretty strong credentials to potentially clear the field. There's a whole bunch of Dems running. There's going to be a general on May 1st if no one gets above a jungle primary. On May 1st, if no one gets above 50%, the 2 will be in a runoff later that month. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on, and probably is the most likely to really blow up from a national perspective if somebody gets hot.
Another Western seat that is up for grabs right now is Deb Haaland's seat in New Mexico 1. Pretty confident that this one will stay blue.
Yeah, it definitely could become competitive, though the Dems have to be the favorite in that one. So
Yeah, maybe confident is the wrong word, but it's not been a competitive seat historically. It's not like the New Mexico 2 of 2018 where you saw $10 million spent or whatever. There's been relatively small amounts of spending in the seat in the past.
Yep, so that was won by Deb Haaland by 23 points in 2018, and she's maintained pretty consistent margins of victory since then. It is only a D+7 using the Cook PVI, so there definitely is some opportunity for Republicans to really strongly contest that seat. Special elections, low turnout, really anything can happen, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on. But it is interesting here that both of the parties will actually be choosing who runs in the general election, so there's not going to be a contested primary here, so it'll be interesting to see how that affects the landscape of the race. As we've seen kind of in the past sometimes in Pennsylvania 17, early in 2018, we can see that sometimes the party picks can sometimes be a problem, or they can, certainly be a strength. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
And it definitely has an impact on the level of spending that you see in the race. Half the time the primaries make up the lion's share of spending as different candidates battle it out. And in this case, if you just have one from each party, then it'll be a more straightforward spending pattern. But
it seems that way. And then there's going to be one last special election that has not had a date declared yet, I believe, but Ohio 11 is going to be the last one, and that is going to be another comfortable Democratic seat, though it does have some interesting dynamics with who's kind of vying on the Democratic side for that seat. You have kind of Nina Turner on the progressive side, and you have kind of a whole bunch of moderates, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
So we will be keeping an eye on the spending and the ads as they go up. We'll probably do another check-in for Ohio and New Mexico that don't have dates set yet. Does Texas have a date set?
Texas does have a date set. It's going to be May 1st.
Okay, and both of the Louisiana races are coming up.
Yep.
So stay tuned for some of the races that have yet to be announced. We'll be sharing some of this information on our social media accounts, so be sure to follow us on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And as always, if you have questions, you are welcome to reach out to Ben at the address listed below.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great St. Patrick's Day.